me! You are going to hear from my attorney!
Hello everybody, I'm Coco Cosmos, and today we'll be taking a look at total drama character, Courtney. It's your favorite CIT, everybody! Courtney is a classic Type A archetype, and she never lets you forget it. She's a boring leader, and that shows in certain challenges during the first season. She's a little stuck up, but not to the point where she's overly rude. She's a very by-the-book person, until she lets loose one night after the military challenge to the surprise of everyone. Along with these skills, she's also very athletic, a great problem solver, and very organized. However, the problem is everyone sees her leadership as overly controlling and aggressive. Upon her arrival, she says hi to Owen, and while shaking his hand gets distracted by Justin's beauty. She bonds with a couple of her teammates, most notably Bridget. Bridget and Courtney don't get many interactions after Island, so their friendship status stays intact. Her elimination in this season, though, was a bit unfair. It was out of sabotage and revenge. Really, if Harold didn't ruin the vote, there's a good chance he would have been eliminated. I'm not saying Courtney would have won, even though I really like her too, but she would have gone far in the game, I think. After this, she turns into Ruthless Courtney, even as going as far as to bargain with her fellow contestants' lives for the prize money. After the money is lost, Chris announces Season 2. In action, Courtney gets kinda weird about Gwen and Duncan's friendship, much like Trent. She does return to the competition halfway through due to her lawyers filing a wrongful dismissal suit. Because of this, she also gets some unfair advantages like using her PDA. The other contestants get upset at this, but Courtney remains her competitive self. She tried to lead her team the best way she knew how, but her team was kinda rough, so it caused her to be harsh with them. They dislike her because of it, but eventually get over it. Nothing is stopping Courtney from winning no matter what. She has a rivalry with Lindsay, mostly because Courtney tried to lead, but Lindsay can't follow that well. It gets worse when Lindsay asks Duncan to her movie reward, even though they have nothing in common. It was just to drive Courtney crazy. Courtney has been winning immunity through challenges and keeping herself in the game until she gets to the Final Four. In World Tour, things start switching up a bit. In the first challenge, she starts butting heads with Gwen because she doesn't really like the way she's acting with Duncan. Duncan gets upset when he's caught in the middle, so when he's asked to sing, it's the last straw and he quits. With the obstacle removed, Courtney and Gwen start bonding, even if it's for a little while. They mostly just tease Heather and they work pretty well together as a team. But here comes the Newfoundland challenge. Gwen thinks she sees Duncan, so Courtney directs the rowers towards that direction. Turns out to be a conveniently Duncan-shaped rock. Someone mentions that sometimes if you miss someone, they pop up everywhere. Courtney gets a little suspicious, but lets it go. Then the London challenge comes, where they find Duncan for real this time. They bring him back, and Chris forces him to return to the competition. She scolds Duncan about just quitting like that, but tells him how much she missed him. Afterward, Courtney starts gushing about how glad she is to have Duncan back, but also whips out her over-the-top list of things to change about him. The Grease challenge is where it really hits the fan, of course. Courtney doesn't like it when Gwen and Duncan go off alone together to participate in one of the events, even suggesting that they all watch closely. She basically gets ignored, and they move on. Before the Icarus event, the truth comes out, because Tyler just can't take it anymore, and Alejandro prods him. He saw Gwen and Duncan kiss. Courtney is rightfully angry. She tells Cody not to move so her team loses and she can get Gwen out, but since Cody still has a soft spot for Gwen, he still tries his best and wins. From here onto her own elimination, Courtney tries her hardest to give Gwen the boot, including throwing every challenge and trying to make Duncan jealous by using Alejandro. In the end, Gwen does end up leaving and Courtney is pleased. The craziest thing is after this, she still helps Alejandro cheat. Courtney gets the boot herself in a dual elimination with Blaney. But here's some good news. She returns in Total Drama All-Stars. Her time in All-Stars can be summed up in 2 words: jealousy and distrust. That's pretty much been Courtney for the past 2 seasons, huh? And it's coming back in this one. I'm gonna try and keep this part brief, though. So, Courtney is put on the Heroes team initially because she was wronged by Gwen and Duncan in World Tour, and isn't seen as evil compared to the actual villains team. There are a lot of unfortunate events between Gwen and Courtney every time they interact, which makes Courtney even more annoyed with her. Regarding her team, she wants to be the sole leader, and her team actually wants to work as a team. She of course doesn't like it, but tries to appear as a team player. After a win, she and the team are loving the spa hotel, but Courtney thinks they're being way too positive about it. So she tries to find something wrong with this place, but couldn't find anything. At Sam's return from exile to Bonnet Island, everyone gives Sam some breakfast, except Courtney, who wasn't informed. She then volunteers to protect Sam during the challenge since he's so out of it, and says she owes him one. But, you know Courtney has a plan. When getting targeted by Joe, she uses Sam as a shield. She claims she did it out of instinct. At the elimination ceremony, where they're spectating, Chris ends up switching Courtney and Duncan, putting them on opposite teams because of this. Duncan is a bit smug about it, saying that Courtney can't just ignore him now. Courtney still doesn't care. Actually, the entire time, Courtney could care less about Duncan. Since Courtney and Gwen are on the same team now, Gwen does all that she can to make things right with Courtney. Even going as far as crying in a confessional because she keeps ruining it. Courtney overhears, but is still suspicious, because maybe that was Quinn's plan all along. Slowly but surely though, they start getting along. Even pairing up during a challenge after the merge. There was a small relapse due to Chris's meddling, but it's here that Courtney confesses that she wasn't really mad about Duncan, but mad that she just lost a friend. They make up again. They start laughing and joking with each other. When Scott is being his nervous, weird self around Courtney, trying to give her a compliment, Courtney and Gwen make fun of him for it. I found this to be needlessly mean, but I digress. Courtney tells Gwen that they'll go all the way to the finale together. The thing is, Courtney very much does not like Zoe. She sees Zoe as a threat basically because she's like her, but likable. Her likability score is pretty ass, honestly. When she sees Zoe and Gwen bonding, she gets a bit territorial and demands to know what they're laughing about. She then blurts out the secret that she's been keeping, that she kissed Cameron on accident. Shock and awe! But they're over it, so it doesn't matter. And Sunday, Muddy Sunday, she shows off her elimination chart in a confession, but, writing, and Mal gets his hands on it. It reveals that she wasn't being truthful about taking Gwen to the finals. And she even drew Scott with a tail. So now everyone hates her. She ends up eliminated in this episode. But she tries her damnedest in the challenge despite not considering the interns as real people. Courtney's first relationship during the series, arguably one of the most popular ones, was with Duncan. They have a bit of a rough start considering their personalities clash, but you know how those opposites attract. It starts with the little things, like a snuggle here, an accidental hug there, until finally Courtney has her moment. She breaks the rules for once, and during the heat of the moment, the two share a kiss. Yeah, they're my favorite. But in that same episode, she's eliminated due to Harold's sabotage, which we find out later. Their relationship stays in an okay spot throughout the competition, up until the beginning of World Tour. She gets overly bossy and suffocating to the point where Duncan literally quits the game because he's had enough. When they find him in London and he comes back to the game, their relationship falls apart. She makes another giant list of his faults and things she wants him to change. Duncan clearly isn't feeling all of this nagging. Duncan ends up sharing a kiss with Gwen, and this clearly hurts Courtney and ends things, but not before causing a scene. Every challenge after the betrayal she throws just to get Gwen eliminated. Courtney really likes some roughnecks, huh? Scott and Courtney were pretty cute together during their brief relationship in All Stars. It starts when Scott eats gruel off her head and comments that she cleans up real nice. The more she bosses him around, the more he starts to like her. Eventually, when Scott goes off to Boney Island to find the invisibility statue, Courtney feels that something is missing, and she realizes that thing is Scott. She denies her feelings, of course, because how could she like someone like Scott? Much like with Duncan, there are accidental touches and even an accidental kiss. They do start an actual relationship, albeit brief. He asks her to be his girlfriend while offering her a ring made from his shoelace. Almost immediately after this, during a challenge, something knocks Courtney and Cameron to the ground and they accidentally kiss. It's not a real kiss, but Scott takes it that way. They get over it though. The real nail in the coffin was Courtney's elimination chart, which fell in the hands of Mal. Everyone turned their backs on her then. Courtney does end up in 2 one-sided relationships as well, but they're not super interesting in my opinion. One was with Justin during Action with the attraction on Justin's end, and the other in World Tour with Alejandro on Courtney's end. They were both due to strategy, though Justin seemed to actually like her when she became the princess. The Alejandro thing was just to try to make Duncan jealous. Actually, I take it back. Courtney and Justin would have made a cute couple, but it would have never worked. World Tour is where Courtney's character slowly started descending, though I can't really blame her. It's still a debate if Duncan actually cheated with Gwen, but nonetheless, it still hurts that someone you thought you were forming a bond with, and calling a friend, starts kissing a guy that you were into. She became super overbearing towards Duncan when they found him after the London challenges, which is a bit much considering she was actually starting to accept some of Duncan's flaws, and then suddenly turned back into strict list maker Courtney, just so this plot could play out. Then after the betrayal, she starts throwing challenges. Like, that ain't Courtney at all, bro. She literally called Trent a loser for doing that exact thing. I mean, this ain't the first time Courtney was hypocritical, but come on, bro. All-Stars took the cake for real, though. All-Star wrecked characters, but Courtney is one of the ones that definitely take the cake. There was some semblance of Island and Action Courtney there, but there's definitely something off. I wouldn't consider her a hero or a villain, but if she had to be on a team, I would have preferred that she be on the villains team from the get-go. If the heroes team was going to be sugary sweet, you know? Then there was the weird one-sided feud with Zoe, especially when Zoe and Gwen started bonding, with the icing on the cake of Courtney making her elimination chart and leaving it out in the open to be discovered. Lord have mercy. And you can say it wasn't out in the open, and the writer's just like, oh, well, Mal has to be the mastermind, whatever. But, like, still, though, Courtney, I don't think she would have made a mistake like that, you know? I respect Courtney, because she knows who she is. Her likability in the game needs work, though. So does her leadership methods. She's real as can be, though, so I gotta stand by her. You know, until the World Tour All-Stars debacle, but we can pretend that never happened. Here's my rating. I think that's fair enough. Do you like Courtney as a character? Who else should I analyze? Let me know in the comments below. Coco Cosmos out.